Every evening, as the cold Pacific tide attacks this volcanic shore, hundreds of crabs must make a choice: climb or be swept into the ocean and die. But this moment, this desperate vertical escape is only the final act of a 14-hour war for survival on one of the most hostile surfaces on Earth. It begins before the sun rises. 5 a.m., 7:45 a.m. Before the sun touches the Galápagos Islands, the volcanic basalt is already alive. These jagged, jet-black rocks born from Fernandina's eruptions less than 700,000 years ago seem utterly hostile to life. Yet beneath every fractured slab, an extraordinary community of arthropods thrives on the very edge of the habitable world. It is just past 5 in the morning. The air is heavy with salt, and the cold Pacific breathes in thunderous rhythms against the lava shelf. This is the hour of the nocturnal hunters. The Galapagos centipede Scolopendra galapagoensis is completing its final patrol, reaching 30 centimeters in length. It possesses a pair of modified front legs called forcipules, structures unique to the class Chilopoda that function as venom claws. A 2019 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences revealed that centipede venom contains a peptide called SSTX, which blocks potassium channels in prey cells, causing rapid paralysis. Each forcipule terminates in a curved claw with a venom pore at its tip, capable of subduing prey within seconds. As the first gray light filters through the marine cloud layer, it retreats, flowing like liquid amber into the labyrinth of lava crevices. It is not alone in seeking shelter. The Galapagos scorpion Centroroides galapagoensis withdraws beneath a thin basalt flake. Its exoskeleton contains beta-carboline proteins that fluoresce under ultraviolet light. Research published in the Journal of Arachnology suggests this fluorescence may function as a full-body photoreceptor, allowing the scorpion to detect ambient light levels with its entire cuticle surface. And from the sand zone, the ghost crab Ocypode gaudicaudii descends into its burrow. Its compound eyes, mounted on tall periscopic stalks, contain thousands of individual ommatidia that together provide nearly 360 degrees of visual coverage, one of the widest visual fields in the crustacean world. But as the nocturnal world contracts, the diurnal world awakens. The first Sally Lightfoot crab to emerge is a juvenile, and it is nearly invisible. Young Grapsis grapsis are dark brown-black, a cryptic coloration indistinguishable from wet basalt. Only through successive molts, up to 30 across their lifetime, do they acquire the explosive scarlet pigmentation of adulthood. This transformation is driven by the deposition of astaxanthin pigment, a carotenoid derived from the algae they consume. A landmark study in the journal Crustaceana confirmed that astaxanthin concentration in the carapace increases linearly with body size, directly linking diet to coloration. In the tide pools of the intertidal zone, the first stirrings of an even smaller world begin. Marine mites of the family Halacaridae creep across submerged crusts of pink coralline algae, grazing the microscopic biofilms that coat every surface. Above them, a giant water strider of the genus Halobates takes its position, an insect standing on liquid, held aloft by nothing more than the invisible architecture of surface tension. 7:45 a.m., 11:30 a.m. By mid-morning, the lava field is transformed. Dozens of vivid adult Sally Lightfoot crabs forage across the wet volcanic basalt, scraping microscopic films of green algae with their remarkably flattened chelae. These claws function like miniature spatulas, biomechanically optimized for shearing algae from rough volcanic surfaces. Research by Martinez Guerrero and Celis Hurtado demonstrated that the chelae edge geometry of Grapsis grapsis generates shear forces up to 400% more efficient than a flat scraping tool of equivalent size. They leap between rocks with astonishing precision, crossing surge channels in a single bound. They contest feeding territories with ritualized claw displays, raising their orange chelae in threat postures that resolve most disputes without violence. On the Sesuvium carpetweed above the splash zone, the painted locust Schistocerca melanocera basks in the overcast warmth. This endemic grasshopper conceals vivid yellow-red hindwings beneath its camouflaged forewings, a strategy known as diamatic display. Biomechanical analysis has shown that the locust's hind femora contain the fastest contracting muscles relative to body size of any animal on Earth, generating forces exceeding 20 times its own body weight in a single jump. Among the rocks inland, Darwin's carpenter ant Camponotus mesolentus has established foraging highways across the basalt. These ants mine dried marine guanouric acid, deposits most organisms find toxic, extracting vanishingly scarce nitrogen compounds from this mineral-dominated landscape. When two nestmates meet, they exchange food through trophallaxis, a mouth-to-mouth regurgitation that a 2015 Royal Society study proved also transfers juvenile hormone analogs, effectively synchronizing the colony's developmental biology through chemical communication. In the tide pools, the giant water striders exploit their hydrophobic tarsal pads covered in thousands of microscopic setae that distribute their weight across the surface tension without breaking through. Each pad creates a visible dimple in the water, refracting light onto the pool floor below. They skate across this liquid ceiling, sensing vibrations of drowning insects. Beneath their feet, the marine mites graze on, oblivious two worlds separated by a membrane thinner than a human hair. And beneath the basalt slabs, the endemic huntsman spider waits in permanent twilight, 8 legs spread against the rock ceiling, motionless as the stone itself. (11:30 a.m., 14:30 p.m.) As midday approaches, the black basalt becomes a crucible. Despite the overcast sky, the dark volcanic rock absorbs enormous thermal energy. Surface temperatures can exceed 50 degrees Celsius, lethal to most arthropods within minutes of sustained contact. The air above the stone shimmers and distorts, a visible signature of the heat radiating upward from the ancient lava. The Sally Lightfoot crabs respond with a remarkable form of thermal regulation known as stilting behavior. They extend all 10 walking legs to their maximum length, elevating their bodies as high as possible above the scorching rock. Infrared thermography studies conducted on Galápagos intertidal crabs have demonstrated that the boundary layer of air between the crab's ventral surface and the basalt can be up to 8 degrees cooler than the rock itself, a margin that means the difference between life and death. Some crabs supplement this with evaporative cooling, recycling water from their gill chambers through their mouth parts, where moisture bubbles form and burst, carrying heat away from the body with each tiny evaporation. Others crowd into crevices and beneath overhangs, stacking their bodies in dense clusters, where the cool rock walls offer refuge from the thermal assault above. The painted locusts flatten themselves against shaded vertical rock faces, pressing their bodies laterally against the cool basalt to maximize contact and minimize solar exposure. Their powerful hind femora fold tight against their abdomens, conserving energy in the oppressive stillness. The Darwin's carpenter ants reduce their foraging to a skeleton crew, a single guard at the nest entrance, a lone worker sprinting at maximum speed across the lethally hot exposed rock between shaded zones, minimizing contact time with the superheated surface. In the tide pools, crisis unfolds at the smallest scale. The pools are shrinking. The lowest tide of the day has withdrawn the ocean's protection, and evaporation concentrates the remaining water into increasingly saline brine. White salt crystals advance across the drying rock in intricate geometric formations. And the marine mites, those tiny red arachnids that breathe dissolved oxygen directly through their cuticle, requiring no lung, no book gills, no tracheae huddle in the last remaining puddles, straddling the boundary between the crystallizing salt front and the shrinking wet zone. They are, in a sense, arachnids that have returned to the sea, and now the sea is abandoning them. Beneath the slabs, the nocturnal predators sleep. The huntsman spider presses flat against the crevice ceiling. Its vibration-sensitive trichobothria, hair-like sensory structures on its legs that can detect the footfall of an ant from centimeters away, standing erect, even in rest. The centipede lies coiled in its deepest chamber, its amber body rising and falling in slow respiratory rhythm. The scorpion curls beneath its basalt flake, its stinger tucked close, conserving every molecule of moisture. The basalt shore holds its breath and endures. "30 p.m., 15 p.m. The afternoon brings relief. The basalt begins to cool. A breeze carrying the salt mist of the rising Pacific tide sweeps across the lava field, and the first film of moisture appears on the dark rock, a glistening sheen that was absent through the dry midday hours. The crabs sense the change immediately. From crevices and overhangs across the lava field, scarlet bodies emerge, pulling themselves back onto the open rock with the same hauling motion they used at dawn. Eye stalks rise, chelae extend. The basalt shore reawakens. The tide pools refill with cool, oxygen-rich seawater, and the marine mites, which endured the midday and shrinking brine, are revitalized their tiny red bodies, now vivid and active again on the pink coralline algae, grazing with renewed energy as fresh currents flow around them. The giant water striders ride gentle ripple waves caused by the incoming surge, their hydrophobic tarsal pads flexing and adjusting as the water surface deforms beneath them. From the volcanic sand, the ghost crabs emerge to patrol the surf edge. Their asymmetric claws, one massive crusher, one delicate cutter, are perfectly engineered for the dual tasks of combat and feeding. They sprint along the advancing waterline at speeds that make them among the fastest crustaceans on land. Their pale, translucent bodies flickering against the dark volcanic sand like apparitions. The painted locust unfolds its powerful hind legs from their compressed midday posture, preparing once more to feed on the crimson sesuvium. And beneath the basalt slabs, something stirs. The huntsman spider repositions, creeping along the rock ceiling toward the crevice entrance, its principal eyes catching the fading light as bright reflective spots. Its chelicerae slowly spread, revealing the folded fangs within the predatory apparatus of an ambush hunter preparing for the approaching night. Deeper still, the centipede's antennae unfurl. They probe the cooling air that filters into the crevice, tasting the chemical signatures of the approaching dusk. The amber head rises from its coil. The forcipules loosen. Segment by segment, the apex predator of the basalt shore stretches toward the light. And nearby, the scorpion's pale body emerges from under its basalt flake, its metasoma curling upward, its pedipalps held open in a hunting posture. The nocturnal world is waking, even as the diurnal world continues to feed. For a brief, extraordinary window, both worlds overlap on the surface of the same black rock. "15 p.m., 19 p.m. As twilight descends, a new visitor materializes from the gloom. The Galápagos hawk moth, a powerful crepuscular pollinator, hovers at sesuvium flowers with a proboscis that can exceed the length of its own body. Its flight muscles vibrate at frequencies high enough to generate metabolic heat, allowing it to fly in temperatures that would ground most other insects. It is a keystone pollinator of the coastal flora. Without it, the sparse vegetation that stabilizes these lava fields would face reproductive collapse. It drifts between blooms in silhouette against the fading sky, a dark shape suspended on invisible wings. Its compound eyes, each containing thousands of individual ommatidia, catching the last amber light of the dying day. Below it, the centipede flows across the open basalt at hunting speed, dozens of legs drumming the volcanic rock in wave-like coordination, antennae sweeping the surface ahead in rapid chemosensory scanning. Its forcipules are spread in pre-strike readiness, and when the strike comes, it is devastating. The centipede coils its body around the captured prey, forcipules embedded, venom flowing. The apex predator has claimed its first meal of the night. The ghost crabs sprint along the darkening surf edge, throwing wet volcanic sand behind them in powerful burrow maintenance displays, their periscopic eyes scanning a world that is rapidly dissolving into blue-gray shadow. The scorpion pivots on the basalt above, pedipalps open, waiting. But the true spectacle of the basalt shore belongs to the falling light and the rising sea. As the cold Pacific high tide surges in with mounting aggression, the lower rock platforms are overwhelmed. White water boils across the basalt. Waves explode against the cliff base, sending plumes of spray 10 meters into the air. And on these lower shelves, hundreds upon hundreds of Sally Lightfoot crabs begin their mass migration. They move upward in a synchronized vertical exodus triggered by the mechanical vibrations of the crashing waves. The crabs scale the sheer basalt cliffs, their curved tarsal claws, each one hooked into a vesicular gas bubble cavity in the volcanic rock, provide grip on surfaces that appear impossibly smooth. They climb over one another, legs interlocking, carapaces grinding, a flowing river of scarlet ascending the dark cliff face as the white surf pursues them from below. From below, their electric blue ventral surfaces flash against the fading sky, a cascade of color pouring upward through cascading water. This is not panic. This is evolved precision. The crabs that fail to climb are swept into the churning Pacific. The crabs that reach the upper platform survive to forge another dawn. Natural selection has, over millennia, sculpted every aspect of this behavior: the timing, the speed, the grip strength, the social tolerance of climbing over one another into a choreography of collective survival. And at the summit, as the last breath of twilight fades from the Galápagos sky, a single scarlet crab stands motionless on the highest point of black volcanic basalt. Its eye stalks turn slowly, surveying a world of darkness, ocean, and stone. Below, the centipede emerges to hunt. The basalt shore endures. The crab has survived the day, but the centipede's night is only beginning. What happens when the basalt shore goes dark is a story that demands its own film.